my backing finished and I'm just pinning it on to the leader. I'm just using my flower pins or butterfly pins, whatever you want to call them. So I start in the middle, put a few pins in both ways, and then I'll go all the way to one end and then all the way back to the other end. I'm just pinning about 1/2 inch from the edge of the selvage. I'm putting my pins pretty close together because I don't want any gaps. I just leave my pins in here in my leader, and then when I need them, they're right there. What I usually do is go down a couple of spots and stick in a pin, and then come back and do the one in between. But that time I didn't because it was already so close. So see right here, I'll put in a pin and then come back and take this one and put it in. So I'm trying to keep the edges of the selvage of my fabric and the edge of the leader cloth even as I can. When I get to the end, I like to put my pin in backwards so that I don't get stabbed while I'm working, and I'll weave it through a couple of times to make sure and hold it good. And then I'm going to roll this up. I'll have to move this out of the way because it's in my way right now. There. Take off any stray strings or anything like that that I see. Now I've got this bar, take up rail. I've got it loose so that I can roll it easily, and just kind of keep the leader straight on it as I'm going. It tends to want to bunch up down here under where I've got the Longarm machine setting. Now I'll tighten it back up. I'm going to show you how that looks now. I'm leaving about 1.5 inches so that I'll have room to manipulate my machine and everything. So now that part's done. See if I can, and then I'll just take my backing and lay it over top of the belly bar, what I call the belly bar. Now I float my quilts, not just my top, but also my entire quilt, all 3 layers. So what I have to do now is I have to get my batting cut and then lay it up on here, stick a few pins in it just to keep it from moving, and then I'll put my my quilt on top of that. So give me a few minutes to get that done. I have my batting cut, and to do that I buy my batting by the roll, and once the roll gets pretty small I can lay it up on top of here and roll it out and just trim the batting to the size that I need. So that's what I did today. Now there is definitely a right and wrong side on this batting. I'm using a polyester type batting that is by Soft and Bright, and I buy it by the roll. There's 25 yards in a roll, so it lasts a pretty good while. But the rougher side is the side that goes down, faces down, and the smoother side faces up. And I am just taking my batting. Let me show you what I'm doing here. I'm just putting the edge of my batting up under that little lip that I created there. I'm doing this one-handed, so, but you get the idea. Just pushing it up under there as far as it will go without crunching it up. I'll do that all the way down, and then I'll straighten all of this out. I really like this batting because it really shows off the quilting, and I've washed all of my quilts that I've made with it, and it doesn't pucker as bad. It keeps a nice, it puckers a little because all cotton shrinks, and your quilt's going to shrink a little bit, and I don't mind a little bit of pucker in a quilt. I think it kind of gives it character, but it really doesn't shrink up that much or anything. And I guess that's because it doesn't have cotton in it. Now I've got it all up under this little ledge. I'm going to stick a few pins in there to hold it while I am getting ready to put my top of my sandwich on there. Now this batting is 90 inches long, I believe. And I'm just going to leave that extra on the bottom of it until I get through with it. And then I'll trim it off. And then what I take off of there, I'll use for a baby quilt, or I'll use for a bag or something small like that. My batting is hanging over the edge of my backing just a little bit down here, but that doesn't bother me. Not even a half inch. And I really wouldn't have had to make it as wide as the backing, but just for ease of measuring and all of that, I just do that. Okay. Tighten it up just a little, not much. Looks nice and smooth. Now I'm going to put my top on. Notice I have not wound anything around this bar right here. Most people will wind this up around here. The problem with that, to me, is if anything gets messed up while you're rolling your quilt, advancing it, you've got to take that all apart. Well, I don't have to do that. I just raise it up, fix what I need to fix, and then put it back down. Okay. While I was showing you that, I dropped my quilt. Okay. I guess there's not really a top or bottom to this. Nothing seems to be directional. Alright, I'm going to find the center of this, and I did spray this. Take my label off. I did spray this with a little bit of starch water, and it did seem to help. Like I said, I had already pressed it after I made it. It's all in my seams. I pressed nice. So let me put another pin in the middle of this. could just eyeball this where it had about the same amount on each end of batting and backing, but I've got my leader marked here with a permanent marker. I'm going to come down about an inch below that. I'm going to put my pins in to where I can still run my machine at the top of that to stay stitch it. And one way I'm going to try and make sure that I get this even is I'm going to try and find a line on here that I can line up on top of my belly bar there. I do try to keep it as even as I can. My husband's running some kind of machine out there. He's really enjoying this daylight savings time. Actually, I can take these pins out and use them because I don't have to have those and leave those in there. Not want to come up. There we go. What kind of machine he's operating out there, but it's loud. That's okay. He's a hard-working man. Okay. So this should be all ready to go. Looks pretty good here. Now, you might think, well, what are you going to do about that bottom part? Well, let me show you. Okay, here's all the 3 layers laying down here. And you can see that those bottom 2 layers are quite a bit bigger than the quilt itself. So I'm going to ooch down on that end and I'm going to straighten it all out. Then I'm going to kind of fold it up. I'm just going to kind of ooch it up. I'm going to roll it up and ooch it up. I can't put it all the way under because I have tubs of fabric down there. I have carpet, so it's not going to get all dirty. I've still got to put my clamps and everything on. I guess I could let you watch me do that. Let's see. So the first thing are these clamps right here. There's 2 of these, so you put those on just on the backing. One on each side on the ends, and that holds it this direction. Same thing on the other end. Now I'm going to move my machine kind of over into the center. I'll show you my machine in a second. And then I'll tighten this up just a little bit. It has a ratchet in there that you can hear it clicking. I don't do it real tight, the first time especially. And then I have these little white clamps, and I'll put one in the center. I have 4 of these, but I usually only use 3 of them. And then one on each end. Usually I'll peek down under there to make sure everything's good before I do this. But I'll peek down under there now. Looks pretty good. Now I'm going to ratchet it up again. 1, 2. That's enough. Okay, now it's ready. It's not going anywhere. Everything's good, nice and smooth underneath. And what I'll do is I'll start in the center and I'll make a basting. Well, not really a basting stitch, but I'll do like a stay stitch as far as I can come this way, which will be to about right there. And I'll adjust the height on my machine because I've got too much space under there right now, because when I took my last quilt off, I had, every time you advance it, every time or two that you advance it, you have to raise you have to raise this, take it bar up a little bit to compensate for all of the fabric and quilt that's rolled up on it. So now I'll lower that to about a finger's width, and I'll do that on each end. And if it looks like it's not quite the same, I'll go to the other end and take a little more down. And if I need to, I'll put my little level on here. But I can kind of tell by the feel because I've been doing this so long. Okay, everything's ready to start. And like I said, I'll start up here. Down each side is long, as far as I can reach. And then I'll start on the inside. And I just free motion quilt. I'm not sure what I'm going to do on here yet. Maybe flowers and hearts, swirls and things like that. But it's all ready to go, except almost that color of thread. I've got sort of a beigey color. I think I'll switch to a pink thread. See what I have in my thread stash. Since the front and the back are pink and white. Let's see what I can come up with. I think I have some pink. It's been a while since I showed anyone anything about my long arm setup. Okay. Oh, let me see. Okay, this is a Grace Unique 16X. It does not have a computer on it. It's made by the Grace Company. I bought the machine and they gave me the frame. It's an 8-foot frame. And they gave me the light bar. Where's the light bar? There it is. The light bar. And they gave me a bunch of little stuff to go with it. These clamps and I don't know, just a bunch of stuff. So it was a really good deal, and they run those deals pretty often. So if you're interested in an affordable machine that won't cost you as much as a car, you might check out Unique's, Grace Company's machines. They have several to choose from. Anyway, that's my pitch for my long arm and my frame setup. And as you've probably seen in my other videos, I have an older one on the other side of my room, which has a 10-foot frame on it. And I usually put my bigger quilts over there. Okay, I'll let you, I'll give you a peek when I get started quilting this, and I'll talk to you later.